Hello everyone, my name is David. Today we are going to take a look at another horrible case with you. In the city of Hubballi, in the Indian state of Karnataka, there is a college named BVB. A boy named Fayaz Kondanak studied at this college. Fayaz was very good at academics, and along with his studies, he was also passionate about bodybuilding. Moreover, a bodybuilding competition was going to be held at the college where Fayaz studied. When Fayaz found out about this bodybuilding competition, he decided to participate in it as well. The competition was going to take place in the college auditorium, and many students from the college along with several others were expected to attend. On the day of the competition, a student named Neha Hiramath from the same college had also come to watch the event. Neha and Fayaz were classmates. Neha was very happy to see Fayaz in the bodybuilding competition, and while Fayaz was performing, she was very impressed by him. After the competition ended, Neha met Fayaz. She talked to him about the bodybuilding competition and complimented him. After talking for a while, Neha exchanged phone numbers with Fayaz. Once Neha and Fayaz exchanged numbers, they started talking regularly on the phone. Gradually, as time passed, Neha and Fayaz began to really enjoy spending time with each other. Neha and Fayaz had now fallen deeply in love with each other, even though their relationship had only just begun. Still, their relationship was going very well, and thus their love story had started. Later, Neha's health deteriorated badly as she had contracted a serious case of typhoid. After getting typhoid, her physical health weakened significantly, and due to her illness, Neha was unable to attend college. Her absence from college started affecting her education, and on top of that, she had an exam scheduled on April 18th, 2024. But due to her illness, she hadn't done any preparation for that exam. Still, Neha didn't want to miss her exam. She would have felt terrible if she had. So she started doing some initial preparation for the exam. She prepared for it as much as she could, given her condition. By the day of the exam on April 18th, 2024, Neha's health had slightly improved. Her typhoid had been so serious that it had taken her a full 2 months to recover. But since she was feeling a bit better, Neha decided to go to college to take her exam. Before she left for college, her mother told her, "When you finish your exam, I'll come pick you up from the college." After hearing her mother's words, Neha left for college. Shortly after she reached, her exam began. In the exam hall, Neha stayed fully focused and completed her exam well. As she exited the hall, her face was glowing with happiness because her exam had gone even better than she had expected. Her exam had ended between 4:30 and 4:45 p.m. After completing it, Neha came out of the examination center. As soon as she stepped out, the first thing she did was call her mother and told her over the phone that she had completed her exam and was now leaving the examination center. Neha's mother was already waiting for her near the college gate. Neha ends the call with her mother after a brief conversation. After that, Neha wanted to reach her mother as soon as possible because she wanted to discuss how her exam had gone that day. But as Neha was leaving the examination hall, a boy suddenly stood in front of her, and seeing him, Neha became extremely frightened. In fact, there were other boys passing by at the time, but Neha got scared specifically because the boy standing in front of her was holding a knife and was slowly approaching her creepily. Seeing all this, Neha got scared of the boy and tried to walk in the opposite direction to avoid him. But before Neha could say anything to the boy or hear anything from him, he suddenly stabbed her in the neck with the knife. When the boy stabbed Neha in the neck, she fell to the ground. Even after Neha fell, the boy didn't stop stabbing her. He kept attacking her repeatedly, and during this he also injured his own hand. The boy stabbed Neha a total of 7 times with extreme brutality, causing her to bleed heavily. In fact, while stabbing Neha, the boy had also cut his own hand, and he was bleeding too. As the boy was attacking Neha, the students nearby were horrified by the scene. They began screaming loudly in fear. Witnessing everything, the students couldn't understand what was happening because the boy started stabbing Neha so suddenly and rapidly. After that, the boy tried to flee the scene, and many students from the college ran after him to catch him. Eventually, the students were able to catch the boy who had attacked Neha. The entire incident was also captured on the college's CCTV cameras, although only a small part of the campus was visible in the footage. Some people did try to help Neha, but when they saw the knife in the boy's hand, they got scared and backed away. After that, an effort was made to take Neha to the hospital, but she died before she could be admitted. At that time, Neha's mother was waiting for her outside the college, but Neha never came out alive, and her mother kept waiting outside. However, the college students had already caught the boy who had brutally attacked Neha. By then, the police had also arrived, and since the students had already caught Neha's killer, the police's job became somewhat easier. So the first thing the police did after arriving was arrest the boy. After arresting him, they brought him to the police station. Then the police began investigating who the boy was and what his motive was for killing Neha. During the investigation, the police found out that the person who had killed Neha so brutally was none other than Fayaz. After learning this, the police started gathering more information about Fayaz. They found out that his name was Fayaz Kondnik and he was 23 years old. Fayaz lived with his mother, Mumtaz. His father's name was Baba Saheb Subani, but he lived separately from his wife, Mumtaz, and their son, Fayaz. Fayaz's parents were both teachers. Fayaz was a very good boy and also very good at studying. He always scored above 90%, and along with studying, he was also into bodybuilding. Fayaz felt very proud of himself, and his mother Mumtaz was also very proud of her son Fayaz. At the time of this incident, Neha Hiramath was 22 years old and she was very studious. Neha would go straight from home to college and return straight home afterward. Neha's father's name was Niranjan Hiramath, and he was a corporator in the Congress Party in Karnataka and also a member of the Hubballi Dharwad Municipal Corporation. Neha's father, Niranjan, loved her deeply and always wanted his daughter to stay happy and progress in life. Neha's family was also very good and they all loved each other dearly. But after everything that happened, news of the incident was being broadcast on television on the evening of April 18, 2024, and Fayaz's photo was also being shown on the news channel. Some of Fayaz's relatives were also watching this news, and after seeing it, they called Fayaz's mother Mumtaz and informed her about it. When Fayaz's mother found out about the incident, it was like the ground slipped from beneath her feet. But Mumtaz was even more shocked when she heard the name of the victim whom Fayaz had killed. The reason Fayaz's mother Mumtaz was so stunned to hear Neha's name was because she already knew Neha. According to Mumtaz, Fayaz and Neha had been in a relationship for the past year. Fayaz had also told his mother that he wanted to marry Neha. But Mumtaz had told her son that he should focus on his career first. She said that only after becoming a properly settled man should he think about marrying this girl. During this one-year relationship, Fayaz had even arranged a phone call between his girlfriend, Neha Hiramath, and his mother, Mumtaz. But when the police were interrogating Fayaz, he told them that he was in a relationship with Neha, but in recent months, Neha had started avoiding him a lot. Fayaz could not understand Neha's behavior, which made it very difficult for him to handle the situation. Fayaz's father, Baba Saheb, also said that Fayaz and Neha were in a relationship. In fact, Fayaz had told his father as well that he wanted to marry Neha. But just like his wife, Mumtaz, Baba Saheb did not support Fayaz in this decision. In addition, Fayaz's father, Baba Saheb, also told the police another shocking detail. The matter was that Neha's family had once called Fayaz's family and told them that Fayaz was troubling their daughter Neha a lot. They told Fayaz's family to make him understand that he should stop bothering their daughter. Neha's father Niranjan said that Neha and Fayaz had been classmates in the past. He also said that Fayaz had been harassing Neha for several months and repeatedly proposing to her. However, every time Fayaz proposed, Neha rejected him. In fact, Neha had become extremely frustrated with Fayaz's repeated proposals and had warned him several times. Neha told Fayaz that if he didn't stop harassing her, she would file a complaint against him at the police station. After being so troubled by Fayaz, Neha finally informed her family about his behavior. After that, Neha's family spoke with Fayaz's family. During this time, Neha's family also tried very hard to explain things to Fayaz. But even they never imagined that Fayaz could take such a step and kill Neha over rejection. Whether Fayaz and Neha were actually in a relationship or not, or whether it was Neha who initially approached Fayaz, all of this will only become clear when solid evidence comes forward. But before attacking Neha, Fayaz's behavior had suddenly changed a lot. He was no longer able to focus on his studies the way he used to. Because of this, Fayaz failed his college exams. After failing these college exams, Fayaz was completely shattered. After this failure, he began to wonder how he could fail, despite being such a good student. With this in mind, Fayaz tried to take the exams again, but this time too, he didn't score very well. So Fayaz decided that he would now drop out of college. After that, Fayaz dropped out of college and stayed home all day. He had become very depressed and didn't do anything at home either. In addition, he wasn't eating or drinking properly and didn't leave the house anymore. Everything that had happened to Fayaz had left him extremely depressed. Since the time Fayaz dropped out of college, he never tried to rejoin again. He also never attempted to look for a job. But then, on April 13th, 2024, Fayaz told his mother, Mumtaz, that he was very troubled by the way he was living his life. After saying this to his mother, Mumtaz, Fayaz also told her that he had now decided to look for a good job for himself. Then Fayaz told his mother, Mumtaz, that he was tired of staying at home and was now leaving to find a job. After saying this, Fayaz left his home. At that time, Fayaz's mother, Mumtaz, believed that he had indeed gone out to look for a job. But on the evening of April 18th, 2024, when some relatives informed Mumtaz that her son Fayaz's picture was being shown on the news, she was shocked. That was the moment when Fayaz's mother, Mumtaz, learned about the incident and about the girl Neha, and she was deeply shocked. Fayaz's mother, Mumtaz, had never imagined that her son could ever do something like that. However, Fayaz's mother, Mumtaz, always wanted her son to become an IAS officer. Everything in Fayaz's life had been going well. He studied hard, had a good college life, and also excelled in bodybuilding, participating in competitions. Fayaz's mother, Mumtaz, loved him very much. In fact, after the incident, when students from the college caught Fayaz, they and others beat him up publicly. Many people collectively beat Fayaz severely, and because of the way he attacked Neha, many of his old college friends began to hate him deeply. Fayaz's mother, Mumtaz, also said that what her son did to Neha was absolutely wrong. She even said that her son Fayaz should receive the harshest punishment. She said this because she knew that her son had taken the life of an innocent girl, someone's daughter, and she understood how valuable a life is. That's why Fayaz's mother, Mumtaz, wanted her son to be punished for what he did. When this case happened in India, it was election season, so some political parties had already started giving their opinions. Some political parties claimed that the crime happened due to personal reasons. These parties were giving such opinions because doing so might help them gain an advantage in the elections. After that, the Karnataka Criminal Investigation Department, CID, took over the case and in July 2024 submitted a detailed 483-page charge sheet. The CID concluded that Fayaz's motive was personal and it stemmed from Neha rejecting his marriage proposal. So far, Fayaz is in judicial custody and the trial has not yet begun. But there is also no indication of when the proceedings in this case will start. Even the CBI investigation requested by Neha's family has not been initiated, and public pressure is mounting to get justice for Neha's family. However, if there is any future update from the court in this case, we will definitely share it in the community post of the David True Crime channel. So with that, the Neha Hiramath murder case comes to an end right here. Hello everyone, my name is David. Today we are going to take a look at another real story with you. This story is 21 years old. The date was April 28, 2003. The place, Ajmer, Rajasthan. In a locality of Ajmer, there is a police station called Sawar. One afternoon, a call comes in at the Sawar police station. The caller informs the police that in the Sawar area, there's a well, and inside that well, there's a bundle. Inside that bundle is a dead body, but the head is missing. The caller then gives more information. In the same Sawar area, there's a river. On the riverbank, there's another cloth bundle. This one contains a severed head. A little further from there, there's yet another cloth bundle, and inside it are blood-stained clothes and other items, all thrown away. At first, the police think it might be a prank call. Before the officer who answered the call could ask more questions, the call gets disconnected. But given the seriousness of the information, it was the duty of the police to check out the call and investigate the locations mentioned. So, a police team arrives in the Savar area. First, they go to a well, the same well the caller had mentioned. The police look inside and see a piece of cloth lying in the well. With the help of the villagers, they pull the cloth out. It was heavy and something was tied inside. When it was taken out, they found a body with its head missing. This confirmed that the caller had given accurate information. Next, to verify the second piece of information the caller gave, the police head to the riverbank. There, they see another piece of cloth, like a bundle. When it's opened, they find a severed head. But the police are a bit shocked when they see the face and the hair. It looked like someone had tried to burn it, possibly to prevent identification. Then the police go to the third location the anonymous caller had mentioned, which was also near the river. There they find another cloth bundle. Inside were clothes, shirt, pants, all soaked in blood. Again, the caller's information was accurate. The police collect everything, the dismembered body parts, and send them to a government hospital in Ajmer for a post-mortem. After this, the police began their investigation. This happened on April 28, 2003, when all the evidence was found and a call came in. Time passed gradually, but the case wasn't progressing. The police questioned people in the village and nearby areas, and also checked with nearby police stations to see if any missing person report had been filed, but they found no such information. Now, the police were continuing their investigation, but they had no idea about the identity of the deceased. No name, no address, and no missing report filed anywhere. Eventually, after 5 days had passed, the police realized that in order to solve this murder case, the first step was to identify the deceased. So the police decided to publish an advertisement in a local newspaper. The ad was released about 6 days after the discovery of the body parts on April 28, 2003. The head and other body parts had been found at 3 different locations. On May 6, 2003, the advertisement appeared in the newspaper. When the body was recovered and the post-mortem was conducted, the doctor mentioned one notable detail. The person had likely undergone surgery between the left eye and jaw due to a previous accident, during which a steel wire had been implanted just below the eye. These things came to light during the post-mortem. Now, since there was no face, it's not very effective to just give information about a faceless body. So the police mentioned this specifically in their notice that a headless body had been found, and these were the clothes. But under the left eye of the person, a steel wire was found, probably from some past surgery. Along with this information, an official notice was issued. After the post-mortem, the police performed the last rites, treating it as an unclaimed body, but they kept the other belongings and photographs safely with them. Meanwhile, the notice was published and the police waited, hoping someone would show up. Time passed slowly. Far from Ajmer, in a place called Kishangarh, known for its marble industry, lived a man whose son was in the marble business. His name was Durga Prasad. By chance, Durga Prasad happened to see the police notice in the newspaper, and his son's name was Pawani, who was in the marble business, had been missing for a few days. Durga Prasad didn't even know his son was missing. That's because Pawani, who was married to Nidhi and had 2 sons, had moved out after a while and started living separately with his wife and kids. His other brothers and parents lived elsewhere, so there wasn't much interaction between them. Occasionally, the father would call the son or the son would call the father, and they'd check in on each other. But lately, even those calls had stopped. Then, since his son had his own marble business, so Durga Prasad used to go to the warehouse. The older employees there knew Durga Prasad and that he was the father of their boss, so he would often chat with those long-time workers when he visited the warehouse. One day, he called to check in on his son, and the worker at the warehouse told him, "Sir, your son, Pawani sir, hasn't been coming here for several days now. This has never happened before. But lately, your daughter-in-law, Nidhi ma'am, has been coming regularly to the warehouse instead. She's been handling all the business deals and everything else. She even takes all the money with her, so in a way, she's the one running the entire business now." Hearing this made Durga Prasad feel uneasy. His son wasn't showing up at the warehouse, couldn't be found anywhere, and his phone was switched off. He never had a great relationship with his daughter-in-law, Nidhi. But still, when he couldn't find any clues, one day he decided to call his son's house. Nidhi answered the phone. He asked her, "Where is Pawani?" "He hasn't called in days." Nidhi replied, "I don't know. He left without saying anything. We had a small argument and then he just disappeared." After that, he left angrily. So she was asked, "Are you going to the warehouse these days?" "You didn't tell us." She replied, "Now that he's not around, what else can I do? That's why I'm going." For a while, Durga Prasad thought maybe it was just a fight between husband and wife. These things happen. There had been arguments before too, so it didn't seem like anything unusual. But on May 6, 2003, while Durga Prasad was at home and reading the newspaper, his eyes fell on a police advertisement. As he read through the ad, something in it shocked him. It mentioned an unclaimed dead body that had been found. The head and the torso were discovered separately. The torso was found in a well and the head near a pond. The body hadn't been identified and the face was badly burned. However, under the left eye, a steel wire was found, probably inserted during some surgery. As soon as Durga Prasad read about that wire in the ad, his heart began to race. The reason was that around 11 years ago, his son Pawani had been in a road accident in which his jaw was fractured and he was injured under his left eye. He was taken to a doctor in Rajasthan, who then referred him to Delhi's Sir Ganga Ram Hospital, where surgery was done. And there he had surgery, and during that surgery a steel wire was inserted. Now, the advertisement mentioned the same thing. They felt that their son was missing. What if the body they found was actually his? He was extremely shocked. He immediately informed his other sons and told them, "Read the ad the police have put in the newspaper." He then called his daughter-in-law, Nidhi, and told her about the ad and said that the description given in it closely matched Pawani. Immediately, the whole family set out for Ajmer, to the Sawar police station, where the body had been recovered and from where the police had released the ad in the newspaper. All the sons, their wife and daughters-in-law arrived, but Nidhi didn't come. This was strange. Her husband was missing. The police had given an ad, and her father-in-law had informed her, and now the entire family was preparing to go from Kishangarh to that police station in Sawar, Ajmer. Even after being informed, Nidhi didn't show up. So what could be the reason? Anyway, Durga Prasad said, "No worries, if she didn't come, we'll pick her up on the way." So they left and then reached Nidhi's home and picked her up. Then the entire family in separate vehicles reached the Saur police station in Ajmer. When they got there, the police started questioning them. They said that their son had also undergone surgery and had a steel wire implanted below his left eye. But the police said, one detail alone is not enough. So Durga Parsad said, as far as I know, the doctor who performed the surgery was in a hospital in Delhi. Then Durga Parsad said, I'm giving you doctor name and number. Please talk to him. The police called the doctor and the doctor said, look, this kind of surgery isn't performed in every hospital in India. Such cases are very rare. I've only done 3 such surgeries where steel wires were used, and one of them was for Bhavani, the person you're referring to. So the police said, it's possible you mentioned Bhavani, but the person with the wires might be someone else, not Bhavani. The doctor replied, yes, that's possible. Then the doctor said, let me do one thing. Since you've already mentioned Bhavani, I'll give you the names, addresses, and phone numbers of the other 2 patients who underwent the same surgery with steel wires. The police took the names and numbers, made some calls, and coincidentally managed to reach both of those patients, and both were alive. So now the whole matter circled back to Bhavani. Now the question is, this body that was found with the head missing and torso discovered separately, could this be Bhavani? Since the cremation had already been done, all that was left was a photograph. The entire family is now in that area, and they've started to realize that what they feared might have actually happened. This corpse might indeed be Bhavani's. That's when the police said, well, along with the body, we also kept the clothes found at the scene safely, as it's all case property. Let me show them to you. Maybe that will help confirm if the body was Bhavani's. So from the police station's evidence storage, an officer brought out a bundle. The clothes inside couldn't be seen clearly from the top. They were all wrapped up. The bundle was placed on the table and is about to be opened. Only then will it be known whether the pants and shirt inside can be identified or not. But just then, something strange happened. All the family members are standing. A police officer brings a bundle that contains the clothes of the deceased. The identification of the body found on April 28th is to be confirmed through those clothes, whether the body is indeed Bhavani's. The entire family is anxious, their hearts pounding, praying it's not him. Up to this point, the daughter-in-law Nidhi, who had been informed and asked to accompany them, had not come. She was picked up from her house and brought to the police station. She was completely normal until now, but the moment the bundle was placed down, she suddenly started crying and said, "These are my husband's clothes." Now, the inspector at the station noticed something odd. The bundle hadn't even been opened yet, the clothes hadn't been shown, and yet she had already started crying and confidently claimed they were her husband's. Until then, she had been standing calmly. That raised suspicion. Anyway, the bundle was opened. Once the clothes were shown, it was confirmed. There was no room left for doubt. The man who had been murdered and whose body was found in pieces was none other than Bhavani, a marble businessman from Kishangarh, a well-established businessman. Now the police finally knew whose body it was. The identification was complete, and the deceased's identity was confirmed. But the biggest question still remained. Who killed Bhavani? Who was the murderer? The police now had to start questioning the family. One by one, all the family members were interrogated. When the police asked if Bhavani had any enemies or rivalries, the family said he had none in business. In the family, everyone started blaming each other. Bhavani's family, his father, mother, and brother, pointed fingers at Nidhi, saying she might be responsible for this, that she could have killed her husband. But they gave no clear reason why. On the other hand, when Nidhi was questioned, she said that her in-laws, her mother-in-law, father-in-law, brother-in-law, and sister-in-law, were the ones who ruined her married life. When asked why, she claimed they wanted to take over her husband's business. So overall, the family members were accusing each other, but none of the allegations came with solid proof. Now the police have begun investigating the case. They decided to examine every character in the family. As time passed, they began gathering details about everyone, how much money each person has, who holds grudges against whom, but no clues emerged. Meanwhile, Needy was in terrible condition, crying non-stop. Even the police started feeling sympathy for her. She had 2 small children, and the brutality with which Bhavani was killed made it even worse. The investigation continued, but no breakthrough came. When the police investigated Bhavani's family, they found nothing that raised suspicion. But when they turned their attention to Needy and her family, some strange things came to light. During the investigation, the police found a diary, Bhavani's diary. He had a habit of journaling and often wrote about his relationship with his wife. In the diary, he mentioned arguments with Needy. One time she angrily demanded a divorce, another time she forced him to go to court and meet a lawyer for separation. He wrote how she left home one day after a fight, leaving the kids with the maid, and returned only around 11 p.m. after being unreachable. In one entry, he wrote that she often disappeared from the house and returned very late at night. The diary told the story of their troubled relationship, but it didn't contain any direct clues or evidence that things would escalate to the point of murder. So even the diary didn't help the investigation much. The police had many suspects, but no concrete evidence or motive. The investigation went on. Then suddenly, one day, the police noticed something. Whenever Needy was being questioned, her brother always stood by her side. And whenever the police asked her unrelated questions, he would interrupt and try to answer for her. This raised suspicion, so the police came up with a strategy. They began questioning neighbors about Needy, her brother, and her parents. At the same time, they questioned Bhavani's parents, their co-workers, the maid who worked in the house, and employees from the warehouse. When the entire investigation was completed quietly by the police, one truth came to light. Bhavani and Needy's relationship had been strained for the past few years. The reason was that Needy suspected Bhavani of having an affair with someone else. More than that, Needy doubted that sooner or later, Bhavani might join his brothers and father in running the entire business together or hand it over to them, and that they would take everything away. Somehow this thought came into her mind, and she wanted the whole business to be in her name. Because of this issue, there were many fights between them. In one instance, she had written in her diary that Needy did not like Bhavani visiting his parents' house, and whenever he would return after meeting his parents or brothers, she would argue with him. When the family was questioned about this, it was revealed that yes, Bhavani rarely visited, and when he did, he came very quietly because his wife did not like him going to his parents or meeting his brothers. This often caused fights between them. After learning all these truths, the police began to suspect Needy. However, no matter how many times Needy was questioned, she would twist the story. There was no direct evidence against her, so the police hesitated to put her under heavy suspicion, so the police had to proceed very carefully. But after all the investigations, no other clues or evidence surfaced, and the police became convinced that somewhere behind this murder, either Needy was involved or she had knowledge about it. One day when Needy was being constantly interrogated. Now, Needy was a woman and also a widow. The police changed their approach. One day they called her in along with her brother, saying, "Bring your brother with you." When both arrived, they seated Needy in the police station and took her brother to another room. Since he was male and his responses seemed strange, the police began pressing him harder. They took a wild shot in the dark and said, "Look, your sister has already told us half the truth. You might as well tell us the rest. If you don't, you're in trouble." When the police were interrogating him, even they didn't expect that while Needy hadn't broken down yet, her brother would give in so easily. But due to the fear and torture by the police, Needy's brother cracked and confessed, "Yes, my sister killed her husband with her own hands." Once the brother said that, the police called Needy again and made her sit in front of her brother. The brother repeated his statement. At that point, Needy had no way out. She finally told her whole story. The full story was this. When Phawani and Needy got married, they were very happy. They eventually had 2 children and were a decent family. Phawani was a successful businessman who dealt in marble, and their life was going well. About 10 years of married life passed smoothly. During this time, Phawani would often travel for work to places like Mumbai and Bengaluru. Needy, however, was a bit suspicious by nature. Whenever he left and returned, she noticed he would seem unusually happy, especially when he went to Mumbai or Bengaluru. This puzzled her. She would wonder, why is he so happy when he's leaving his family for business? And why does he return with the same joy? Slowly, it settled into her mind that he must be going to meet some girlfriend or another woman under the pretense of business. That's when the suspicion started growing and their relationship began to deteriorate. Aside from this, Needy also noticed how close her husband was with his parents and brothers. She feared that they might try to take over his entire business, so she started putting pressure on him, and fights began over this issue, demanding that he distance himself from his family. In fact, after the marriage, they had all been living together, but because of Needy's stubbornness and constant fights, Phawani was forced to leave his parents' house and rent a separate place in Kishangarh. He started living separately with his wife and 2 children. However, whenever he got a chance, he would go visit his parents and his brother. Needy couldn't tolerate this. These things kept going on. During this time, Needy once said to him, "Transfer this entire business in my name." He replied, "What are you talking about?" Needy suspected that he had a girlfriend or that he might remarry or return to his family. As time went on and he continued working with his family in the business, her doubts about relationships slowly faded, but greed started to take over. She thought, sooner or later our relationship will break and we'll go our separate ways. But if I can get this business in my name, I'll be secure. It was the entire marble business, so how would she get it? Her greed blinded her to the point that she thought, if Phawani is not in this world anymore, everything will be mine. And that very day she decided to remove her husband from her path. There was a driver in their house who had once been very loyal to Phawani. Phawani had even helped him buy a car on loan. Needy conspired with this driver. She lured him by saying, "You don't have to repay the loan for the car, I'll pay it all off. Plus, I'll give you even more money. You'll be rich, just do one thing for me." Slowly, she gained his trust and revealed the entire plan. She told him, "You have to kill my husband, and I will help you too." Then came the night of April 27th, 2003. Phawani came home, and Needy gave him juice. There were sleeping pills in the juice. As soon as he drank it, he almost immediately fell into a deep sleep. Needy called her driver. When the driver arrived, Needy and the driver together struck his head with an iron rod. Once they were sure he was dead, they took the body to the basement. In the basement, they first tried to burn the body, but then they realized the smoke and the smell would spread and people would find out. So they abandoned that idea. After that, they decapitated Phawani. Taking the head to the roof, they placed it on a gas stove and burned the face. Then they packed the head separately, the torso separately, cleaned up the blood, and left in a car that same night with the body parts. Their plan was to throw everything into a river, hoping the current would carry it all away. But on the way, they saw police at 2 places. Since they had guilt in their hearts, they panicked at the sight of the police. So instead, they went to a nearby riverbank and threw the head there, thinking that since the face was burned, even if found, it wouldn't be identifiable. They threw the torso into a well which was in a deserted area. They also threw away the rest of the clothes and left. But maybe all of this would have stayed hidden if not for an unknown and anonymous person who called the police. Even to this day, the Agmer police station doesn't know who that caller was. They tried to find out but couldn't identify the person who tipped them off about the case. Eventually, after collecting all the statements, the police filed a case and arrested Nidhi and the driver. The case went to court. Within a year, the lower court delivered its verdict. The 30th of July 2004, that was the date when the court sentenced Nidhi Sharma and her driver to life imprisonment. Both appealed in the High Court, but the High Court upheld the lower court's judgment. Then they went to the Supreme Court, which also upheld their life sentences. Since this crime took place in 2003, at that time, life imprisonment usually meant 14 years. Later, life sentences in India were extended, and now they can mean actual life for 20 years. So, both Nidhi and the driver served a 14-year sentence. While they were in prison, since Nidhi had destroyed her own marital home with her own hands and was now behind bars, her 2 children were left orphaned. Their grandparents raised them. The children grew up with their grandparents, completely aware of what had happened, how their own mother had killed their father. After serving the 14-year sentence, both Nidhi and the driver were released in late 2017. After being released, Nidhi returned and settled in Kishangarh, where she bought a house. But the story doesn't end there. Even after all that, her greed for her husband's property didn't fade. She began fighting her own children over the business and the estate, behaving as if she had created it all herself. But the children, who had seen everything, who had been raised by their grandparents, knew the whole story of their mother. They knew she was the one who had snatched their father away from them. So they hated her. Nidhi even tried to emotionally manipulate them, but they didn't come close. They didn't want to see her face, let alone meet her. Later, she even filed cases to claim the business. But being a convicted criminal, her cases didn't hold weight. Those familiar with the family say that even until recently, Nidhi was still chasing that very property for which she had murdered her husband. What kind of people exist in this world? And the irony, what use was that wealth? The most precious thing she had were her 2 children. And those same children don't even want to look at her. What child would want to see the face of a mother who murdered their father with her own hands and turned them into orphans? So, this was today's story. Thank you for joining us on this journey today. We hope you enjoyed the content and found it valuable. Hello everyone, my name is David. Today we are going to take a look at another horrible case with you. But by the end of this case, even you will be left thinking for a while about what really happened, because this case remains unsolved to this day. This story begins in a small village called Vinchia in the Indian state of Gujarat, where 38-year-old Hamu Makwana, his 35-year-old wife Hansaben Makwana, and their 2 children aged 12 and 13 lived. Before we move ahead, let me tell you that Vinchia village is located in the Rajkot district of Gujarat, a district known for its traditional handicrafts. However, the Makwana family were farmers, and they owned some cows and bulls as well as 3 of their own farms. This family had always lived a very simple life, and their basic needs were met through farming. In addition, Hemu and Hansa's 2 children went to a nearby government school. This small family was a very happy one, and their children had no chores after school. They would come straight home from school and then go out to play. Hemu and Hansa never stopped their children from playing, but occasionally they would ask them to join in the evening prayers. although kids that young don't usually pay much attention to prayers and devotion. Hemu and Hansa were such devoted worshippers that their children, watching them, would also participate in the evening prayers every day. Now, in the area where Hemu and Hansa's family lived, there were some other farmers as well. Most of the houses there were made only of mud and bricks, and next to these houses a shed was typically built to tie up cows and bulls. Hemu's brother lived just a short distance from where Hemu and Hansa's family lived, and his house was the only one in the area built with bricks and cement. Also, right next to Hemu and Hansa's house, their parents lived. It was Hemu and Hansa's responsibility to take care of them. But every child has that one person in their family or relatives to whom they feel especially close and with whom they feel very comfortable. In this case, Hemu and Hansa's children were very attached to their uncle and often went over to his house to play. But they were the happiest on April 16, 2023, when they found out they would be sleeping over at their uncle's house that night. In fact, Hemu Makwana had asked his brother for permission, and naturally his brother agreed. So, on the evening of April 16th, Hemu took both his children to his brother's house. As soon as they arrived, the two kids ran straight inside their uncle's house while Hemu and his brother chatted outside for a while. Then Hemu left his children there and returned home. The night of April 16th passed normally, and then came April 17th, 2023. Hemu's children had their breakfast at their uncle's house and continued playing there until noon. But when they returned home for lunch, they couldn't find their parents anywhere. The children started looking for them, and this had never happened before, both Hemu and Hansa being away from home at the same time in the afternoon. Usually, Hemu's elderly parents were given their meals by Hansa herself, and even if she had gone to the fields during the day, she would return by lunchtime. If something urgent came up in the afternoon, she would cook the food in the morning itself for her in-laws. So the children went to their nearby fields to look for their parents, where they usually found them. But surprisingly, this time Hemu and Hansa weren't in the fields either. As they walked into the field, they noticed a 7-foot-tall wall and, next to this cement wall, a tent made of plastic bags. Seeing the tent reminded the kids that their parents had been working on it for quite some time. For quite a while, Hemu and Hansa had been taking things inside that tent. It was actually a shiftable tent made from bamboo sticks and plastic bags, the same plastic bags that Hemu Makwana used to bring fertilizer for his fields. Inside this tent, Hemu and Hansa had built a small temple to worship the Hindu lord Shiva. Along with that, there was also a designated spot for performing a fire ritual, Havan, in this small temple, which was quite a surprising detail. In fact, the tent made of plastic bags was less than 7 feet tall, and if the sparks from the fire in the Havan Kund flared up too much, the tent could easily catch fire. Now, before we proceed further, let me tell you that a Havan Kund is a sacred container, typically made of copper and brass, used in Hindu rituals for the fire ceremony known as Hawan or Homa. Besides this, there was a garland of flowers at the spot, red vermilion powder, a large knife, and some fruits placed there as well. But the strangest thing inside the tent was a guillotine. And from the looks of it, it was clear that Hemu and Hansa had built it themselves. Next to this guillotine, there was also a rope that could easily be pulled with both hands. Now, having such a dangerous device at a farmer's home was shocking to everyone. But when Hemu and Hansa's 2 children went inside that tent, they did see their parents, but sadly their heads were separated from their bodies. After seeing this scene, both children immediately ran home and quickly told their grandparents everything. Then their uncle and the rest of the family also rushed to the field, and when they saw the whole scene, they immediately called the police. When the police arrived, they found a note next to Hemu and Hansa's bodies. That note said, "We are responsible for our own deaths, and we only request that someone take care of our children and parents after we're gone." After fully investigating the case, the Gujarat police released a statement saying that both individuals had taken their own lives and that no third party was involved in their deaths. Based on all the evidence, it appeared that Hemu first, followed by Hansa, had sacrificed themselves as part of a black magic ritual. While sharing the details of the crime scene, the police also said that after their heads were severed by the guillotine, they fell into the Havan Kund. No one could understand the reason or the motive behind this because everything seemed to be going well in Hemu and Hansa's lives. In fact, after the incident, Hemu's brother also told the police that there had never been any conflict in the family and the couple lived happily with their parents. They were content with everything they had. Hansaben Makwana's cousin sister told the police something similar, that the Makwana family had no financial troubles. After collecting all the statements when Hemu and Hansa's bodies were sent to the hospital for a post-mortem, no traces of any intoxicating substances were found in their bodies. Actually, police initially suspected that they may have done this under the influence of drugs, but the post-mortem report confirmed otherwise. Looking at the entire matter, only one thing seems clear. That night, Hemu and Hansa performed a black magic ritual in their tent. We've seen before that some people, believing something good will happen, end up sacrificing someone, or even themselves. Usually, in almost every such case, the motive behind the ritual eventually becomes clear. But that wasn't the case with Hemu and Hansa. Other than the final note found next to their dead bodies, they didn't leave behind any clues, which is why their deaths remain a mystery to this day. Perhaps now Hemu and Hansa's children live with Hemu's brother, their uncle, but they may never be able to forget the horrific death of their parents. At the time they witnessed the scene, they were 12 and 13 years old, and that's not young enough for the brain to erase the memory of how their parents died. So with that, the Hemu and Hansa Makwana case comes to an end right here. If you appreciate our efforts, like and share this video. If you haven't subscribed, do so now. Thank you.